August 2nd, 2023 meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Chief, would you please lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have no additional agenda or consent calendar items. Delegations, is there anybody that would like to address the Board of Selectmen? Anybody like to address the board? Okay.
I did submit
A communication.
a communication that should be attached as an exhibit
Okay.
from Ms. Nebalone.
Okay, thank you. And that will be attached to the minutes for the next at the next meeting. Okay, moving on. Approval of the minutes of the July 5th, 2023 meeting.
Move to approve the regular meeting minutes of July 5th, 2023 as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second. Any comments or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It carries unanimously.
And consent
Calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar for the regular meeting of August 2nd, 2023 in the amount of $3,686.52.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? It carries unanimously. Moving on, discussion, and this is just discussion. We don't take any action tonight, correct, Tracy, regarding the charter business. Tracy will bring us up to date. We have the thing, it was in the paper today, but she'll bring us up to date on where we stand. And she saved us a lot of money. We were looking at initially almost over $9,000, and it came in under $4,000. So it's still a lot of money, but not nearly as bad as we had anticipated.
I would say that you deserve the credit for that, Mr. First Selectman.
No, I think, well, we gave you had some help with Allie.
I had an intern.
We gave you an intern, Allie Christensen, and she did a great job.
And a big shout out to her. She was terrific. So I wanted to bring it, your pride and joy, and the Commission's pride and joy. Everyone worked awfully hard, and the deadline to get it published was Thursday, and it went in today, so I can sleep tonight because the woman in charge of legal at the day has been on vacation. So all is well with the world.
All is well. And any questions for Tracy on the publishing it or anything like that?
There's a couple of things that you may want to know. Do you want to report?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. The statute requires that you publish a summary of the changes, and then say that a full copy is available in the town clerk's office. Someone can call the town clerk and request a full copy. And I also asked the town clerk to make sure it's posted on the website. She wasn't sure which one to post. Do we post the summary and confuse people, or do we post the whole thing? And then I think I said that I thought that the statute doesn't say, and there is no requirement that anything be posted on a website in the statute. So I left it up to you, Mr. Siri, and you decided to do both, and I think that was a wise decision.
Right. I think having as much information as available, and here again, if people want more, they do have a resource.
Yes, yes, and it was very clearly explained when you go on the website. This is the summary that was posted in the newspaper, and here's the full copy with the changes, and their track changes in red and blue. So people will be easy.
And really, there was an interesting. Unfortunately, I was just copied, but between you and Karen Galbo, there was a lot of back and forth with emails over the last few days, making sure this all got done right. So, thank you. Do you want to cover the questions too that are going to be on the ballot?
Sure, I have 3 things to cover.
Okay.
Okay. The second are the ballot questions. As you remember, you voted on them at your July 5th meeting. They needed to be put in, and I made the changes that you requested. They needed to be put in proper format for the Secretary of State with quotation marks and yes and no next to it. I have given those in the format they requested to Ms. Galbo, and it's my understanding that if they haven't been sent to the Secretary of State yet, they will be today or tomorrow, or they will be tomorrow. And though the ballot questions with the changes were in your packets for tonight, I think Ms. Anderson made the changes in handwriting, and made the changes on the final.
No, I don't,
I don't think we did, I don't think we distributed.
yeah, okay. I think, no, it's okay, we're good. I mean, we can get that.
I have it as Exhibit 3 in the packet that I
Yeah, we don't
sent.
have a packet in our folder.
Oh,
I don't,
Everybody has a packet.
yeah, but I
Right,
don't,
but
I don't have a,
don't see the.
Oh, I did not include the exhibits when I put together. the
Okay.
packet,
Okay.
Because
Okay.
the exhibits added like each one.
Okay.
Minutes, so I left them.
so
Okay.
I have that exhibit, and I can verify for you that you asked for 2 changes. In number 8, town charter, which is something I left out the word town. And then I believe it was Mr. Weber, and there was discussion about this. The last question, shall the town charter be amended to provide for the Board of Selectmen to consider charter review at intervals, and rather than no less than every 10 years, it was changed to a minimum of every 10 years. So those changes were made, that's what was sent to the town clerk, and that's what will be sent to the Secretary of State if it already hasn't been done. And the deadline for that is September 1st, so
Yeah,
we're well within the deadline.
yeah, that was one of the things that the registrars and town clerk brought up, I think, a long time ago, is that they needed to get those by early September. And Tracy did a good thing too, really, with the questions. She did it in PDF so that no one else along the way could make alterations. If there was an alteration, it had to go back to Tracy, which made sense that no one, oh, we know what we meant to say here.
And Ms.
Yeah.
Galbo understood. She said,
Oh, no,
that's
she-
fine. I
in
said,
fact,
I'm not
she even
sending
said
it in Word.
She even said, this makes perfectly good sense to me, so that, yeah, so that.
Yeah, that's all we need.
Yeah. And you have one more thing?
Yes, I wanted to talk about the explanatory text that you also authorized on July 5th, and I have a copy of what I had handed out to you. It's also, well, you don't have the exhibits in your packets, but I do. I handed this out, if you'll remember, at the last meeting, explaining exactly what the prohibition of expenditure of public funds regarding referenda, and just to remind everyone that no public funds can be expended, and that is considered very broadly what public funds are by the Election Commission to advocate for the ballot questions. And there is a state statute that authorizes you to authorize me and Ms. Galbo to prepare explanatory text. I haven't started that yet, but we have plenty of time until the November 7th
You
election.
can catch your breath for a little bit.
And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Tracy?
No.
Tracy, thank you and your
Thank
staff
you.
and everybody for a really great job on a very difficult task, so thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stay and watch for a little while, but I'm turning off my clock.
Okay, you knew what I was thinking. Okay. Moving on, the chief last Friday asked me if we could get an agenda item to authorize East Lyme Police private duty assistance agreement. I think I'll let Chief explain it to you, but basically with all the construction, not only at the site, but there's other areas in town, Frontier and so forth, where police officers are needed. So I'll let the Chief speak to it and before we move on.
Hi, good evening, thank you for having me. To go off of what the first selectman was discussing, currently everybody is fully aware how in-depth we are into the road construction that's taking place, not just with Section 74, but other places in town. We're averaging right now 7, 8, 9 officers a day being assigned to road jobs. So certainly it's becoming busy. We have had 0 problems filling those jobs right now, but I anticipate certainly as we move forward that is going to not always be the case. So we've crafted an agreement, or actually Montville has a current agreement with the town of Colchester. We mirrored that. That came back to us, made some changes, was reviewed by the town attorneys. So the version that sits before you is a version that is already in place between Montville and Colchester, with some addendums that were done by the town attorney. So I think this is something that we really need to get into. We're having discussions currently with Waterford as well. Waterford is a little bit busier with road construction, but they seem amenable in the future to doing that. And as you know, we have several agreements with them already to share a lot of services, so it kind of makes sense. And really, this is a backup. This is to make sure that we have enough people to do this work. Currently the state police, unfortunately, are almost always unable to really supply the people they need to. So we're having to kind of function in both jobs. So I just want to make sure we're not, we're going to have the resources we need to do all that.
Just to, as I mentioned, both Lieutenant Jezierski and the chief were up at exit 74 yesterday doing traffic controls. So there is definitely a need for this type of thing. And we had sent the contract has been reviewed by Attorney Zamarka, prior to us bringing it forward for action. Any questions for the chief?
Yes. As this is a state project, isn't this unusual that we would be expected to pay for a state project?
We're not paying
We're not
anybody.
paying.
Okay, we just don't have the people.
Well, we have so far. My worry is this is a 4-year project. My worry is, the burnout that would take place. So, the way that this would work is we would call this out amongst our personnel. If we could not fill all the jobs, this now allows us to reach out to Montville and hopefully in the future Waterford to say, do you have anybody available to kind of fill in here? We're not looking for large amounts, but, may have some jobs that have 1 or 2 people that are needed, and certainly it's going to make the job safer because instead of going unfilled and us having to make adjustments, if we can fill all those spots, 100% plus paid for by Manifold Construction, obviously through this project. So the town incurs 0 cost in doing any of this.
Okay, that's the way I read it, is that the vendor pays either East Lyme or
Correct.
Montville. And
So what it would be is that entity would bill directly to Manifold. We wouldn't even have the administration portion of this. Their officers would sign in, they'd get the slip that they have to get, they would have all the billing instructions already set up. Their billing department would bill the same way that our town does. So, again, there is no downside to the town of East Lyme for this because these individuals be coming to help. So same thing that we do with Celebrate East Lyme, Light Parade, the triathlon. Officers come in from other towns. Those towns pay for those officers. In those cases, this case paid for by the vendor.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got,
Dan?
so if I was understanding the agreement correctly, does it contemplate sharing both ways? So if, let's say we have the agreement with Montville and they need coverage, we would, if we had the capacity, we would supply an officer?
Yeah, we do. And so we currently operate under an existing mutual aid agreement with all of the law enforcement council towns. The difference in this is we're able to call upon them. And again, you see Celebrate East Lyme, the triathlon coming up in a couple of weeks. We have officers from, I think, 7 different departments at that. You have multiple departments at Celebrate East Lyme, the Light Parade. That's under that existing agreement. But when we go into something that may be multiple times a week, for example, we feel more comfortable having a separate agreement rather than that mutual aid compact. Just because of the way that's written. We can always make that request, but the request is supposed to go through the LEC. There's a process to that. This streamlines that process and lets us go directly to that community.
So this is really helpful during the period of all this construction that's going on.
Absolutely. That's the purpose.
Yep.
If you recall, there was the bridge project on Route 1 at the Waterford Town Line about 6 years ago. That was a shared project. We both supplied officers, but because it was on the town line, we never ventured into an official agreement because technically both officers are working at that town line or at that border, so it wasn't an issue.
Thank you.
So there's no expiration on this, no expiration date. This will be ongoing even after the construction.
Correct. Yes. Yep. That'll be the intent because I believe, I honestly believe that we're going to see more and more of these agreements as people have staffing concerns. And I think it really is the best way to go. I would love to see, like the Law Enforcement Council has the mutual aid agreement, venturing into similar agreements, with every community in your area to do this.
Well, I've seen several articles, particularly in the Hartford Current, that the state police force itself is understaffed.
Oh, drastically, yes. Which leads to the impact on us in this project because the troopers, are not available to come work this job. So our officers are having to go up on the highway to do some of these closures. It just snowballs. So we're certainly trying to look forward for us to say how do we help us, and that's by having other municipalities supply us officers. Again, no cost to the town.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
in the way I read it, the town has the first right of refusal,
Correct.
so your staff has the first
Our-
choice.
our union does. This is
Same with, in their neighboring towns, they have the first right of refusal.
Correct.
And then they call us.
That's agreed upon through all the unions, which are all the same overarching union, that it only can go to other towns if there's an absolute refusal. And prior to any kind of ordering situation where it's a public safety issue, mitigating that. We have used this with Montville in the past without the agreement. It's been beneficial. I think one of them was for a water main break that happened on 161 Saturday night. We had nobody available. Water and sewer had to get into the road. Montville sent 2 officers down to help us with that. So we have done these things in the past, and so outside of this project, and I'd like to see that just be, kind of cemented and continue, and have us, not have to worry about doing that on the fly if it comes up. Yes, ma'am.
I just think it's good that you're being proactive with this.
Yeah.
I think it makes everything run more smoothly.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. And Chief, thank you for bringing this to us. And Ann, you have a motion?
Yeah, sure. Move to authorize the first selectman to sign the agreement between the town of East Lyme and the town of Montville concerning private duty police assignments as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dan. Any further comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. And thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on, the next item is short-term rentals. And this does get a lot of press lately. You see it a lot of times coming up in the newspaper and so forth like that. And I know I have received several emails from people over the last several days, and some of them are from people who have said, look, I've been renting or doing the short-term rentals for years, never been a problem. Please, they understand there might be some need for some regulation and so forth like that. And then others that say, we hear from the beach community where there's some concerns over the fact that, especially Ledge Road, we get complaints down on Shore Drive where somebody rents a house for the evening, they park in the road, there's garbage the next day, loud noise, which that can be addressed by calling the police. But the thing is, how do we address it with the property owner? Stonington tried it to where you'd have to have the owner on site within an hour, which I think that's kind of unreasonable. I mean, if it's 2 in the morning, that's something that can be handled by the police as far as noise and follow up. But we have a charge from Attorney Zamarka, who's here to talk to this as well if we need him. But basically to appoint an ad hoc committee to start looking into this. I have some members here. These are people with, some of the people had provided some supporting documentation. I don't see it here. But Ann Santor, Ann has volunteered to be from the Board of Selectmen. Ann Thurlow indicated her interest in the Zoning Commission. And Paul Formica from Giant Snake Beach. John Schweizer, who's with Oak Grove. Gary Ferrugia, who's used to be a publisher with The Day from Saunders Point. John Salino, who's the Black Point Beach Association president right now. And Daniel Beachy, Crescent Beach Association. He used to be on the Board of Governors there and has some interest. And we had 7 members, but Ann Chicello indicated her husband Gary was interested. And the thing is, that's the one person who's not affiliated with the beach. So I think that would be a great addition to have someone who's a member of the community and separated from a beach community and give us a different opinion. So on the charge, we would change 8, so, the number of members from 7 to 8, and then appoint the people, as presented, adding Gary Chicello. So any, Mark, anything to add to that before I open up for questions?
No, just for housekeeping, under number 1 for the charge, as you noted, the committee should be comprised of 8 members, and then we just need to change that, let's see.
5 members.
Yeah, we'll have 6 at-large members. And I don't know if by increasing the number from 7 to 8, excuse me, if you'd rather keep the quorum at 5 or move it to 6.
Quorum can stay to 5. I think that's fine to leave.
Yep, that's fine.
And
Those were the only things I.
yeah, and as you can see, I made sure all the party affiliations are here. So there's, right now with adding Gary, there'd be 2 Republicans, 3 unaffiliates, and 3 Democrats, so I don't see any concerns there at all. And these are all people who have, indicated an interest. Some, they all are coming with an idea of how to address the situation and not to, advocate strongly for one or the other. So they are all looking to do what's right moving forward. On the charge, what I had Mark add, attorneys Mark add, basically it's all going to be, the FOI requirements and so forth like that. So, it'll, take minutes. And I put down that the committee shall conduct at least one public hearing to receive comments and input from the East Lyme residents. I think that's extremely important to do in this case. So this will give that opportunity for people to come and voice their, concerns or support or whatever regarding that. And I put down no later than 75 days after its first meeting for them to provide a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
One more thing, I guess, Mr. Siri. I don't know if there's going to be a dedicated staff member
That there will be
for the board as well.
Yeah, there'll be somebody to take minutes as far as there won't be a staff member who will be a voting member, but building, fire marshal, and zoning will be available to the commission to the ad hoc committee.
Okay.
But not voting members. So, and
Should we add that in as another part of the charge? That they'll be ex officio, or?
They really won't be ex officio,
No.
because
No.
they all know they're going to be resourced. I don't
Yeah.
think we have
Okay.
to.
Yeah,
have that.
that's
So
more
we'll be
resourcing. I don't think that's necessary in the
Okay, so we're
charge.
looking at them as more resource.
Yeah, and the thought would be that once I get a date from that's good for everybody, we'll schedule a meeting. I'll open the meeting as the temporary chair, and then they can elect a chair, and then move on from there. And Mark is attorney to Mark. Mark, I'm sure you'll be available for that first meeting as well, because then you can give them the quick FOI background and things like that. And moving forward. So, any further questions?
I would like to comment on number 3, the committee shall conduct at least one.
Yes.
I realize that at least is a sort of permissive. I would like to see the number changed to 2. Oftentimes after a public hearing, there's publicity on what was said, additional news, and I would like to have a second public hearing to allow those people who perhaps were not in attendance, but, for instance, read a newspaper article, read an article online, would have an opportunity to comment at that point. And I also have a concern with appointing anyone to the commission who stands to financially gain profit from whatever decision is arrived at. In other words, anyone on there who is currently using short-term rental properties and is financially benefiting from that, I don't think it's appropriate for them to be on this committee. I think this committee should be neutral.
Okay. Any other comments regarding that?
I was going to, the same with the bullet number 3, I was going to suggest that the public hearing be early in the process so that people have a chance. I like you, have a number of letters from people that would like to at least be resources that can share their opinion.
Yes.
And then for bullet number 4, 75 days seems like a long time, but maybe not.
Want to make it 90?
So, well, I was going to say that maybe we want to add the caveat that the board or the subcommittee can request an extension for an additional 30 days or whatever. I don't want them to be forced to have a decision that they're not ready to bring forward.
Well, maybe you can make it longer, and then
I was gonna say,
give
do you
them the ability then to extend
How about if
it.
we make it 90 days, and then if they're coming up upon that, they can always request a little bit longer.
As long as there's the wiggle room in there that
Yeah.
they can request it.
And here again,
That's right.
maybe after its first meeting, if necessary, the ad hoc committee if necessary, the ad hoc committee can request an extension beyond the 90 days.
Yeah, no,
And I just say, let's leave it at that, and
Yeah.
then,
I'm not suggesting at their first meeting, I'm just saying if
Yeah,
they're,
just-
this is 10 weeks, right? So if 8 weeks into it,
Yeah,
they're
they
like,
see
you know, we really want to
no, I mean, that's what I mean, as it progresses, hey, look, we need more time, they can
Yeah.
request it,
Yeah.
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 If necessary, and yeah. And
As
how-
far as,
Okay.
as far as the other comment about not having anybody that currently has a short-term rental, it almost feels like you should have somebody because you want to see both sides of the coin, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know that I support that we don't have anybody that has a, I'm just saying I think that should be an option.
Well, there's no reason that those people that are interested can't come and make public comment and share their personal experiences.
Other comments on that?
Well, a couple of things. Well, I agree about the public hearing number. We should at least have two.
I agree.
Kind of beginning, you know, middle or late or whatever. But definitely because, as Ms. Hardy suggested, people cannot always make a first public hearing and don't even know the topics at hand. And then as far as you know, having a financial interest, I think you know, a disclosure in a meeting setting, and I know we did this on ARPA too, if there was any issues, you know, disclose that right up front, so we know where you're coming from or what's happening, and that's all a matter of public record if you're, you know, pretty much, but I think that might be the way to get around the issue of, you know, having or not having folks with a potential financial interest. But I think I see Roseanne's point, but I also see your point, Bill, that yeah, you don't want to exclude those individuals from participating, and it's particularly if it's
It's a form of diversity, and
Yes.
diversity is a good thing.
yeah, it's not the worst.
Okay.
Um,
How about for section 3? The committee shall conduct at least 2 public hearings to receive comments
Yes.
and input from the East Lyme residents. The first shall be early in the process, and the second prior to providing recommendations to the Board of Selectmen.
yeah, that's kind of the way the charter. Yeah.
Yeah, how does that sound to you, Attorney Zamarka?
That's fine. Shall be early in the process is a little nebulous, but
Yeah.
maybe that provides the wiggle room that the committee might need as well.
Okay, that's just because you want to get them to get a little background on what they're doing before they open up to the public. So. Any other comments?
And I definitely agree with at least 90 days because
Okay, that's
by the
fine.
I
time
agree
you
with the
get
90.
it'll
Yeah.
take 1 month to get organized, and then you need to research and listen to expert information,
Okay.
digest it, etc.
Okay, excellent.
And I also agree with the idea of asking for a disclosure of an interest, because who's going to go out and figure out who has an interest or
Yeah.
not? And so I think we have to rely on the members to be upfront, so as you say, you know where they're coming from. And I agree with the two and the 90. And the
Although anything much more than 90 starts running into the next board, right? So this
Yeah,
isn't
so-
really something
yeah,
that we
this-
want to
This
hand
will-
off
this-
3/4.
At
Actually,
least,
to be honest with you, it will be handed off to the next board, but at least you'll have the research
right,
and recommendations ready to
Done.
move forward.
yeah.
Because here again, you know, there was a concern on a couple of people's part that you want to get this done because of the beach season. You really can't do it. We're not going to get this done. And, you know, it needs to be in place prior to probably May of next year. And this gives us the time to do it and do, you know, here again,
Do it right.
do it right.
Okay,
So,
Absolutely.
okay.
but have the
Now,
first public
this will not
season.
impact the beach communities that have their own ordinances?
That's one of the questions that needs to be done, because if it's a town ordinance, it will affect those. That's what you want the ad hoc committee to work at and do the research on. What is best for what's best for the town is what probably have to be thought about. And, you know, if it's done through a zoning, it's a little bit different. Then individual beach associations can have their own zoning. But if it's a ordinance, it's for the entire town. Correct me if I'm wrong?
Nope, absolutely right.
And those are the good questions that they'll have to research and, you know, look into.
So should that be part of the charge?
No, I think that is part of the charge, you know, to the extent there exists a need to regulate such practices. I think that's one of the things. I don't want to decide if it's because we don't know what they're going to decide. They're going to do a whole lot more research, and I don't want to over-complicate it by putting specificity
You
in
use
here
the
right
term
now.
regulate. You've got the term regulate.
Yeah.
And that
Regu-
encompasses.
Yeah,
it's a broad
regulate
term.
such
And
practices.
so that's a good term, I think.
Yeah, I thought that second clause was broad
Yeah,
enough
the
to-
regulate such
to
practices.
incorporate anything you had that's existing even,
Right.
plus anything that you think you need to do.
So
And
I guess you, Attorney Zamarka has stated the appellate court had said that people were allowed to use their property in any way they wanted. However,
Well,
they can.
in brief, what the appellate court said is if renting residences is an allowed use, then the court was not going to put a temporal limit on that and decide, it could only be done for X amount of days or not X amount of days. So in essence, and East Lyme does allow the renting of residential properties. So essentially, you can't say, no, you can only do it for, 2 or 3 days, or you can't do it for more than 30 days.
So East Lyme then could pass a ordinance or regulation then, or zoning or regarding this?
Well,
then?
I think the upshot of what the appellate court said is if renting of residential properties is allowed, you can't outlaw short-term rentals.
Okay.
I think that's probably the takeaway from that.
Can't outlaw it, but you can regulate it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What was the case? Do you have it by any chance?
Hang on one second.
I know you told us last time.
It is Wibby, WIHBEY versus ZBA of Pine Orchard Association. 218 Con-App 356.
Thank you.
Sure.
So if there is an association that is incorporated, do they have legal standing against, to go against this?
I'm sorry, Ms. Hardy, I didn't quite hear.
Well, if we have associations in town, neighborhood associations that are officially recognized as such and have their own rules and regulations, then that's going to be null and void.
Well, that kind of goes back to the question that was being discussed before, whether the committee decides to recommend a regulation or an ordinance. A regulation that would be done through zoning would only apply to the areas of town to which East Lyme zoning applies, and we know we have 3 beach communities where that's not the case. If the recommendation from the committee is that it applies town-wide, then that would be via an ordinance.
Thank you.
Mark?
And, yeah.
Yeah, I know that you'll be addressing the subcommittee on all the legalities and updating us or whatever, but between now and then, is there any appeal being taken in that case or remanding that case for that
I believe there
local
has
zoning
been
board to
a
do
petition filed with the Supreme Court. I don't believe it's been ruled on yet.
Okay, yeah.
I can let you know.
Yeah.
Great. Just a
update on
just a sense that, I don't think we've heard the last of that case.
Yeah, unless it says, let the appellate court
Yeah,
stand.
right.
Yeah. Because, yeah. Okay, any other comments? Ann, would you like to read the charge and then the members?
Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see, so I'll do with the corrections, I guess, that we have too, okay. Charge to the ad hoc short-term rental subcommittee, whereas the town of East Lyme is aware that the rental of residential properties on a short-term basis is a matter of concern to many East Lyme residents, and whereas the Board of Selectmen wishes to investigate the issue of short-term rentals to determine whether and to what extent they may be regulated, if there exists a need in East Lyme to regulate such practices and any other related issues. Therefore, the Board of Selectmen hereby establishes the ad hoc short-term rental committee and requests it conduct its business as follows. 1, the committee shall be comprised of 8 members, each one being a resident elector of East Lyme. There shall be 1 member, each representing the interests of the Board of Selectmen, the Zoning Commission, and 6 members at large. The composition of the committee will comply with the minority representation statute. 5 members shall constitute a quorum. All members shall be recommended and appointed by the Board of Selectmen. The committee shall conduct its business in accordance with all laws and regulations governing the actions of municipal agencies, including the requirements of the Freedom of Information Act. The committee shall conduct at least 2 public hearings to receive comments and input from East Lyme residents. And here we want to say when they are, or
One will be, one will be.
the first of which will be early
In the process.
process. Second, closer in time,
Prior to reporting.
prior to reporting,
Providing recommendations to the
to
board.
recommending to the Board of Selectmen. Okay. BOS, okay. The committee shall report its findings and any recommendations to the Board of Selectmen no later than 90 days after its first meeting, and the committee may request an extension for additional time if necessary.
Okay.
So that's the charge, and then the recommended members of the ad hoc committee on short-term rentals: Ann Santoro, Board of Selectmen; Ann Thurlow, Zoning Commission; Paul Formica, Giants Neck Beach Association President; John Schweitzer, Oak Grove Beach Association; Gary Ferrugia, Saunders Point; John Salino, Black Point Beach Association; Daniel Beachy, Crescent Beach Association; and Gary Ciccello, at large.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dan. Any further comments?
Yes, Mr. Siri, one
Yes.
comment. It was discussed that any committee member that owns a short-term rental must disclose that. I'm assuming that was
Which
going to
one?
be part of the charge as
I
well.
didn't know if we were gonna put it in the
That's,
charge.
yeah, that's
Yeah, how about make that a number
can make it
5?
number
5.
5, yeah.
Number 5.
So
Yeah.
5th is that,
What I have is any committee member who has or owns a short-term rental shall disclose same at the first meeting of the committee.
Okay,
that's fine. I think
Okay.
that's great.
very good. Thank you, Mark.
Go ahead.
Okay, any other comments?
My only concern is that if someone has any financial interest, they may own it in an LLC, it could be in a trust. I think a
So-
safer thing to do is to say if they have a financial interest
Yes.
in a short-term rental,
Okay, yes.
rather than owns.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine,
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Thanks, thank you.
Did you go back on the clock for that little bit?
Thank you.
Okay.
It was 45 seconds.
Okay. Okay, good.
So,
Okay, so those are the 2, the charge and the list of members.
Okay.
Okay,
the
so,
financial interest.
okay, so we will,
Is there a
next.
second?
I don't think I
It
read the
wasn't actually-
motion.
Oh, yeah.
So the motion is move to adopt the charge as amended for the creation of the ad hoc committee on short-term rentals and the appointment of the individuals, again as amended, to the committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Dan. Any further comment? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And
Thank you.
this is going to be a busy committee, so thank you. Moving on, Bill Scheer, as you know, Alex is close is away. He's in Kuwait with the National Guard for another several months. But he does show up on a lot of Zooms and stuff like that from over there. And, you know, we became aware through Bill the opportunity to get 2 of the quick chargers and so forth like that. The trouble is, it's a short time window to which we already got an extension till, I believe, September 15th to apply for this. And the thing is, the town has to come up with a source of revenue first, which was the hard thing to do for, but we had some work that was being done for Parks and Rec. Some of the money they had gotten under ARP was looked at for extending or making the bathrooms bigger at hole in the wall. That did not turn feasible, correct, Bill? And Jerry said he'd be perfectly okay with releasing some of that money. So, Bill, I'll let you take it from there.
Hi, Bill Scheer, Deputy Director of Public Works. Alex started this project a while ago. I know he's been here a couple of times presenting. The original round of applications we did the long chargers, and we did apply for some short or quick chargers, which are the more expensive fast charging stations. From what I understand, it can be 1 to 3 hours for a full charge. Newer cars are almost 1 hour. The older vehicles have older technology. They take 3 hours to get the full charge. We did not get the grant the first round. Subsequently, they did take us. We hung on in the end, and they awarded a few more. And so we did get the, if you look here, this is $224,000 worth of work, and we have to only kick in $50,000. These grants are going to go away very soon. Under the new rules for these grants, we're not even able to apply. So this is our last chance at getting a grant for fast chargers. The plan would be to put them in the northwest corner of this parking lot right here, 2 heads for the fast charging stations, and we can charge whatever we would like to charge, which I would assume would just be our maintenance and upkeep costs. That's something we can decide at a later date. I do have the person from the company that's putting it in who has the technical answers that I do not have. So I'd love to entertain questions.
This is obviously something we've kind of been through before
Yeah.
with them and so forth like that. And I think one of the things that I talked to Bill about is we know eventually, especially with town vehicles, we're going to have to go to electric.
Yeah.
This way, it gets us a jump on it, and because and we have identified a source of the money now, so it won't come out of any tax revenues or anything like that. It made sense to us. But any questions for Bill or so forth?
Yeah.
Okay, Bill, then Ann.
Okay, so is the expectation that these are going to be used primarily for town vehicles and after hours the public can use them, or?
Right now, we don't have any electric vehicles, and
Well, yeah.
I would anticipate right now that this would be public to start with. And that gives us the option, though, to use them for town vehicles. And we can do basically anything we want with them at any time, so.
Okay. So there's been a lot of things in the news lately about the state and federal government trying to push more EV stations, and this program is the best program for us. I mean, I don't know if you can, obviously you can't see the future, but
They're drying up because people, in the near future, you're gonna have to pay full price for these. The grant, I mean, Eversource doesn't want to give this money away. Pure is making them do it. So that's how this works, and that eventually, from everything I understand, these are going to dry up and probably disappear within a few years. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, so I think what you're probably talking about
This is Kate Morales.
Right.
Kate Morales, EFC. You're probably talking about the Biden plan, and a lot of money has gone towards EV charging stations across the country. The program outline for that it's a little tough. It's very specific. So this particular site wouldn't ever fit into that. So it's much larger chargers. They have to be within 1 mile of specific highways, specific interstates, and it covers a lesser percentage. So this is what we have right now. This program, we were able to get East Lyme in under a waiting list for the round 1 money. So that has ended. And round 2, they have changed the program pretty significantly, where this project in particular wouldn't be eligible anymore. So you have to do many more chargers to be eligible at this point. It's sort of a weighted point system now, as opposed to first come, first serve.
Okay.
Okay.
Ann? Oh, Bill, go ahead.
no, I mean, just the same as I said last time we talked about EV charging stations with the commercial use of them more and more for the town to put up EV charging stations. I kind of struggle with the whole, taken away from the capitalistic society and everything else. But if the long-term goal is to use them for town vehicles, then it's like, okay, we'll leave them open to the public for some period of time until the town becomes, a full-time use of them, and then evolve to that in time, and that to me makes more sense. So that's the conversation I'm having on
Yeah.
between my ears.
No, I
think
can see that completely happening.
That's what I was thinking.
Because
Same
as the
thing, Bill.
capitalistic nature takes over, they'll come out elsewhere, and then we can flip over to just serving ourselves with these.
Yeah, so the new gas station's got a couple EV chargers. They're around, and there's people that are in the business of putting up EV chargers, and that's their business. So for the town to take that business away doesn't feel right. But if the long-term goal is for them to become town use, and this is the way that we get there, then it feels better.
Yeah, well, the other thing is it takes us a long time to jump into something new too, so at least we could, foray into this and get
So-
one or two electric
Right,
vehicles.
so now you can start looking at
Yes.
electric vehicles because you can actually plug them in.
Yes,
So that's
exactly.
kind of cool. Yeah, okay, I'm good, thank you.
Just a quick question. You said the fastest chargers, are those the 1 to 3 hours? Is that what we're
Yes, this
looking
is this is the fast charger. This is the Cadillac.
Where
Okay.
the other ones are the slow charge.
The other ones are the slow
You're
chargers.
slow,
at? Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. And, do you have anything? Oh, we just got on
No, I'm happy that the Eversource grant was gotten and we're not footing this bill, because I still have some of the same concerns that Bill has expressed. And happy that we've been able to move some funding with the American Rescue Plan dollars. So that's good. And the state is, the state of Connecticut is, very serious about, non-fossil fuel vehicles, in the next 10 years, and having fossil fuel vehicles not be sold and, after 35. So I think this is a direction where our hands are being forced to some extent. So to me, this is a reasonable compromise,
And actually, if we do flip over to town vehicles, these are the town vehicles in this parking lot would be the best vehicles to do it with, because they're not out plowing for 48 hours straight.
Right.
They're
Right.
being used during a day,
Yes.
then they park overnight.
Yes.
So these would be the perfect vehicles to start the program with.
Right, exactly, thanks.
Okay.
So,
Dan, anything?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just
I
to
apologize.
tell you sort of the extremity of where the situation is. So we were able to get East Lyme on the wait list first. Some projects dropped out, and we were able to get East Lyme sort of slid in there. So that program is no longer there. But in addition to that, lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. In addition to that, the new program is unattainable for a lot of small towns and small businesses because it requires so many to be installed at one time. We also have had some changes in the census map since we initially applied for this. So this was considered an underserved area, this particular district right here. And it's no longer. So we were able to get them to give the full 250,000 as opposed to 150,000. So we've kind of pushed them at every angle, and we have pushed them now for extensions. So I know that it takes time to make these decisions, but just consider kind of all of this in the thought process, I think.
We have a drop dead of September 15th if they're going to drop us if we're not ready by September 15th.
Okay. Anything, Dan?
No, I fully support the initiative, and it's a great segue into town vehicles eventually being rechargeable. And so we'll have it in a location that's ideal for what we want to do. It's also for the town itself. It's a draw for people to come into town if they know that they have the opportunity to get their cars charged up while they're enjoying Niantic. And the other, the question I had was, is this a unit that requires a three-phase power?
Yes, it's
And we have that
three-phase
available.
480s.
That's
Yes.
There's not many places that have three-phase
Right.
480, so we're limited to where we can put these, and we're lucky to have it here.
we have it here.
We have it at the corner,
Yep.
Yeah,
so we just need to bring it
Okay.
to the corner.
that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Roseanne?
We have an ongoing vehicle replacement program, which kicks in every year. Are there vehicles that we might acquire as we purchase new vehicles that are more readily available for use of electric power?
I think now that if this goes through and they're actually here, then we can potentially look at it, because otherwise you're buying the horse and the cart all at the same time, which is a much bigger investment. We're going to already have the horse here.
Yeah.
So,
I know Joe I talked with Joe Burgaw about it, and Justin Porter, who does a lot of the, involved with the vehicle replacements and that. If this is approved, is going to start looking, that's one of the first things they'll start looking at, is when we can start phasing into that.
Yeah.
Any questions? And again, thank you, and here again, we had been through this, and Bill, you make a really good point, I thought the same thing about, people being able to, businesses being able to have people come in and charge up at their locations too. But I think we're gonna have to, at some point in time, have these available for the town. I'm looking down the road, and I don't wanna say, well, we don't wanna spend it now, so that we have to spend $150,000 later. Because we're heading in that direction, I don't think anybody questions that, so I think it's a wise move. So if there's anything else, Ann?
Sure, okay. Let's see, we have our motion. Move to approve a special appropriation of $50,222 for the installation and operation of 2 Tier 3 electric vehicle charging stations from American Rescue Funds, and forward to the Board of Finance for approval. Note, this requires a town
Oh, hold on, you
meeting.
had a different one.
Yeah, let me just see if I have a different one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll reread.
Reread.
Scratch that. Move to approve a special appropriation of $50,222 for the installation and operation of 2 Tier 3 electric vehicle charging stations from American Rescue Funds to an account titled EV Charging Station, to account 85-70-009-700-901, and forward to the Board of Finance for approval. This requires a town meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann. All those, any further comments?
I did have actually another question. We did get this approved through legal to find that ARP was appropriate funding?
Yes, we did. And unfortunately Tracy left. Yes, we did.
Okay, okay.
Very good point, because that's what we said we'd always do. Okay, thank you, Bill. And, okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Kevin, do you need me to stay around for your first selectmen's report, or are you good?
No, I'm good. I'll cover that area.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Put in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One comment.
What you meant.
That handout you all received that looks like a bunch of accounting jargon, that was the ARPA list where that funding was just coming from. So I gave you a complete list so you could see where the funding was. So, because last I reported there was only 17,000 available. Since then we've closed partially one project and fully one project. The town hall computer Wi-Fi upgrade for like $5,129. That's exact. That was paid for by the operating budget, so we closed that, freed up $5,000, and we also moved $5,000 out of the $35,000, sorry, out of park and rec restroom enhancements. So now the budget is $165,000, and the idea there was the engineering department, public works, park and rec, and myself got together. And we developed a true cost, since there's a new park and rec director. So they're looking at, there was some money available in that project. So we moved some of that out and select a little contingency there.
And Jerry did send me an email saying he was very comfortable with relinquishing this funds from the Parks and Rec allotment back to the ARP fund. Okay, thank you. And end of year's budget transfers, we're going to hold off on that because some bills came in and we're waiting for a final from the Board of Ed, but you can tell them the good news part though.
So we are significantly under budget. The good news, I had some things worked out, and then yesterday and today some bills came in that I didn't have in my list here that I have to add for. So before I want to make sure it's a complete transfer, one final transfer. But just to highlight some accounts that are significantly under budget. Little notes over here. The pension was budgeted for $618,000. We only spent $430,000. Retirement liability. If you remember, before I started, the retirement liability was carried over year after year. And then in 24, the year we're going into, we budgeted for the whole amount. So there's no more rollovers. But that amount was $359,000 originally. We spent $183,000 out of there, so almost $160,000 there. So between the pension and the retirement liability, that itself, north of $350,000 between those two lines. So that was good. Just some other accounts to discuss. Let me see here, just real quick. Some savings we did this year, just by the timing of hires. The chief building official wasn't hired at the start of the year. Neither was the IT director. So we realized some savings there of over $10,000 in each of those lines. So we're in great shape. I know there's the largest account over expend we had was police overtime, but we knew about that. The chief and I were in constant communication about that. There was some sergeants that were out, so it required other sergeants to come in at overtime rates.
There was a point in time last year when we were 7 people down with injuries and so forth like that, so
Yep.
there's
So I
no
think
way you can basically budget for that.
Yep. So I think we did great under those circumstances. I really believe that. And then the firefighters. One firefighter, I believe, is out on military leave.
Yes.
So there was there was significant savings of over 70,000 in that line. But as a result of that, part timers was overexpended by about 50. So net savings still. So that was good. And that same thing happened with dispatch. Where's the dispatchers? Dispatchers, same thing. There was a the full-time dispatchers was a little over, but we made up with that by saving over 21,000 in overtime and an additional 16,000 in part-time. So 30,000 over, 37,000 in the black. So that was fine. So it's just little timing things like that. I know there's a lot of transfers, but that was because last year there was no increases in people's salaries. It was carried over from the prior year, so there had to have been a transfer out of salary contingency to each wage line.
Yeah, which will.
So I mean, this is a 3-page journal entry. I didn't finish it. So
And here we go. We'll be discussing this and
Next meeting.
and
Next
taking
meeting we'll
action.
have a finalized
Yeah,
one.
next month.
Yep.
Yeah, not next week.
So just one question, this is all the overage or the extra money, not overages, underages, if that's a word, if not, I just
Yep.
made it one. Where's the money going to?
The majority of it is, so I mean, the salary contingency breakout was, this particular paper had $296,000. What was your question?
He meant, where's the money
Where
that,
is it?
the
Where's it going?
unexpended,
Is it
where's
going
the
to the
unexpended
general
money
fund?
going? It
The
goes
action was to
un-
transfer the budget, I'm just asking, are we transferring
Oh,
to
so
general?
it's a transfer, so it's not a transfer out of those lines. There's so this work paper that you guys were provided, because it was a little too in the weeds here, there's transfers to and transfers from, right? So savings, we saved in, I already did the savings. Expenditures, we need to transfer into general government legal, because we're doing the charter revision. That was unanticipated to me,
Well,
when
it
hearing
was
the budget.
anticipated.
We have, let me see here, if I'll just give you a couple, I'll give you a couple.
Okay, so the transfers are gonna be basically net neutral?
Oh, we are, yeah, I make it net neutral, because all my debits equal my balance, my debits equal my credits. But overall, we are a few $100,000. I still have left 65,000 in my salary contingency line after I did this journal entry.
Okay.
So,
So-
does that kind of answer your
So
question?
Yeah, I didn't know if this was all money that was gonna go into the rainy day fund, or
Well, at
whether or
the
not
end
it
of
was
the-
gonna offset
At
other
the end of the
things.
At
day-
the end of the year,
At the end of the year.
Combination
I
of
just
both.
do this just to make sure the budget looks clean for the
Yeah,
auditors.
this
I mean,
is
that's all it
this is to
says.
make sure the overexpended, as you know, Bill, the overextended accounts are overspent,
Yeah,
we
so
transfer money
Yeah.
from.
Right.
Kind of trying to
Yeah.
get a feel for which ones were overexpended. and-
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
But we'll be talking about this,
I'll give you you'll have every, at the meeting we bring this up, you'll have it'll be every to and from. You'll see it all
Okay.
mapped out.
Unfortunately, I'll read it.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on since we'll act on this. We have to appoint to the Southeast Connecticut Water Authority representative.
Yes, okay. Move to appoint the following representatives for the town of East Lyme to the Southeastern Connecticut Water Authority, SCWA. Carol Russell of 4 Bramblebush Drive, Niantic, with a term to expire September 1st, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann. Comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And then to appoint Attorney Bill Willits. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, so are we, I have a second, you're on that, you were there, is that?
Yeah, don't need to be appointed, do I? I think
Okay,
by nature of being
so-
here, I'm on the position, right?
No, we appointed.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and the
Okay.
second person to be appointed, and we'll do the vote again.
Okay.
Kevin Siri, 25 Quail Crest
Crest.
Road, East Lyme, with a term to expire September 1st, 2025.
Is there a second? I'm sure it won't be that day, but.
Second.
Okay. Okay, so moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Abstentions? and Mr. Willets.
Okay. Move to appoint Attorney William Willets Jr. to examine the indices of the land records for calendar year 2023 in accordance with Connecticut General Statute Section 7-14 for the sum of $2,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
I hope there's no questions, because that is a very
It's
inexpensive
like-
rate.
Yeah, I was
He
thinking
does, he's
that
been
too.
doing it for $2,000
Okay.
forever, but Bill's,
That's all we budgeted.
yeah,
Yeah, we won't say anything.
yeah. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, carried unanimously. Moving on to ex officio, Roseanne, we'll start with you.
I don't have an ex officio this evening. I would like to recognize the passing of Francis Adams, who passed away a couple of weeks ago at the age of 104. And he did serve 2 terms on the Board of Selectmen in the latter part of the 1960s.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
I have no report.
Ann?
Yes, I have library, both the annual meeting and the regular meeting of the library on July 10. Just a couple of points. Library traffic is really brisk. Both people visiting and taking out materials. And I guess in the children's children's section of the library, we're well beyond pre-pandemic levels. So this is all good news. It's pretty amazing. The new conference room, which, as Ann, you remember, we used the American Rescue Plan funds for. It's really taken off, and it's used by different groups almost every afternoon. So it's an everyday event. So that's great. There's now, even as of June, a poster printer that's available, which will generate some additional money for the library. So that's great. Community Center feasibility plan is well underway. Brian Cleveland is the architect. There was already been an initial structural examination, and then there were a number of these community interviews and interactive sessions. I went to one of them where you could express your preferences for how the community center should structurally change. The one last point about the library, they'll be engaging in strategic planning this winter so that the library will be eligible for a state building grant. So you can't get that state building grant, which will go in, be the follow-up to the feasibility study, unless you've done the strategic plan. So that's all good. And that's it for me. I have water and sewer, but you probably cover that. A little bit.
Yeah, that was actually really quiet.
Yeah, it was pretty quiet.
Very quiet.
Yeah.
And?
Just a quick question. Feasibility study, you said Brian?
It's Brian Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Who used to work for Silver Petrocelli.
Right.
That's why we're.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know that I
Yeah.
recognized the name, and
Yeah,
I was
he-
like, how do I
Yeah,
know
he went
that
on,
name? Okay.
he opened up
Yes,
his own firm.
Yes,
Okay,
in Monroe.
I remember him from.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Perfect.
So,
All right,
good.
thank you.
sure.
Okay, so the Historic Properties Commission met last night, August 1st, and basically for Brookside Farm Museum on August 20th, they're having Irish music, Clan O'Leary, from 6 to 8 p.m. It's free to the public. You bring long chairs and a picnic and enjoy the music. At the Lee House on August 12th, they're having an archaeological dig for the families. And I don't have the time of that, but you do need to register for that one. So that was it.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Planning July 18th, the only thing to report, I think, is that the 4-lot subdivision that's been discussed for many months was approved with a number of conditions, but it was approved July 18th.
Okay.
Where is that located?
Yeah.
Upper Walnut and Holmes Road, Shelley Harney and Christian Clark.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think Niantic Heights is what it's called.
Okay, moving on to my report. First thing is I attended Monday night the Little League state championship game where we beat Shelton 4-1. It was a great game to go. It was an hour and 45 minutes because it's right at rush hour, but it was worth every minute to go down there and watch them. They scored quick 4 runs in the first inning, and it was just a really great game, under an hour. And now they're moving on to the Metro. They'll be playing, it's the 4 teams from, it's a team from New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. And they're playing in Bristol, Connecticut on Saturday at 4. They're playing New Jersey. So we're wishing them luck. And I was told, and I could be wrong, but this is the first time the boys U12 have won the Little League State Championship.
Nice.
That's what I was
That's
told.
really special.
So it was really special too. Just town hall, you know, for a lot of years we've always been talking about we need a floater, just somebody, that additional person here. When the part-time assistant left HR, there was a full-time position in her to fill. We had moved it up to full-time. And I called Sandy Spencer and she said, I really don't need a full-timer. I have the part-timer, it's working out fine. So it'll freed up enough money for us to hire an additional floater who's going to help out in the clerk's office, downstairs in planning zoning building when needed, and offered some help up in the assessor's office. And this way, you know, when Sandy's on vacation or something, she'll fill in our office here. And it's 25 hours a week. It's Sue Spang who takes minutes for us and that. So we've got someone, and you know, no benefits are involved outside of medical or anything like that. So it's still cheaper than if we had hired a full-time assistant for HR, because then that person would have qualified for benefits. So we're getting 2 people for less than 1, and I think it's already working out well. Bonding this year, we did the bonding call. We did really well. They recognized the fact that our undesignated fund balance is, you know, it's not at that high level of 16.67, but it's seen significant growth and continues to experience growth. So they're happy with that. And the concerns that were evident last year with our audit problems were not brought up. They've seen that we've gotten one done and that we've hired the staffing and brought in the resources to address it. So we got a little bit of a bump in our bond rating, which the interest rate is still higher than last year, but it's better than it would have been had it not been boosted up a little bit. Like I said, they're pleased in the manner in which we're addressing the audit and our sustained growth. Celebrated Lyme Day. Estimate was about 35,000 people. It was a really fun day. The weather held, great fireworks at the end. Someone said, why don't we do it twice a summer? And I thought, no, not at all. The concerts are ongoing at the beach on Wednesday, so, but I mean, this is far more preferable to being down the beach concert and up in the...
Are we going to vote on that?
Yeah. And on the band shell on Friday nights. Adam's Family, I saw it last week. It's fantastic down at the Playhouse. And they're averaging about 90 to 95% capacity for each of their plays, so they're doing really well. I finally got to meet the woman I've been corresponding with for Amtrak, Jane Brophy, and her assistant last week. It was a really good meeting, and they kind of looked down Main Street and took a walk down, and they said, I'm so glad you did not get that fence, considering what it would have done to views from 5 churches, Skippers, and several of the other places. The one thing she said is last year they were going to tell us, install a fence down in Groton, and we could look at that. She said, unfortunately, when budget cuts get hit, fences are the first thing to go. So we're on the back burner now, right, or not for fences, so we may have to put up with what's there for right now, but definitely the town will be involved once they get to move forward. Really responsive to our concerns. Whenever I call them up with a concern regarding maybe growth of vegetation on the other side of the fences by the parks, they'll have a crew out there the next day. So, really good resource there. She did point out that the nearest major project in the area will be the bridge over the Connecticut River, the train bridge. That'll be replaced probably in the next 4 to 5 years. National Night Out last night for first responders, police, fire, and also Waterford came over to join us. Dan and Ann, you were both there. You saw a really great turnout, a lot of fun, a lot of activities for kids, and some really positive interaction, so a lot of fun. The new town hall hours are working really well until last Friday because it was tax day, and but Sandy quickly responded and put on a sign on the outside door that said drop box up here, and so you could see people walking up to the drop box, so it did resolve the problem. But that was the only we literally have, most people have been very positive of the fact that they can come in later in the day now. We got notified today that probably they're going to start the bidding for the wrong way light flashers for exits 72, 73, and 74. They probably won't be installed till next year, but those are if you get on going the wrong way, red lights will flash on the entrance ramp too. It didn't list exit 75, so I'm going to reach out to that because I'd like to see that one there too. And that's it. Last thing is Noble Gas has opened. They have the soft opening right now, but they're open for the restaurant, the ice cream and so forth like that. So, and they said they're going to try and compete with their website with Costco for gas prices.
I saw that.
So anyway, so that's it. That's the end of my report. And the communication that we did attach for Lucera Nebelong, that will be attached to the minutes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Public comment? So there's no selectmen's response. And then I'll entertain a motion to move into...
Just one moment, please.
Yes.
This is the last meeting that our high school AV attendant will be here to help us.
You're heading off to college.
That's right.
Yes.
Wow.
Congrats.
Well, thank you so much for everything you've done to help and so forth like that. It's great. And the best of luck in college to you. Where are you going? You told me once. Eastern, great.
That's great.
Okay. And Patrick's going to Ithaca? Okay.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Maybe, yeah. Oh, you're doing Eastern. Yeah, okay. He said he'd help fund your tuition too.
Your parents' tax dollars.
And also you, yeah. So. Okay.
Great.
All right, moving on.
Thank you.
Do we have a?
Yeah, we'll have a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters, East Lyme Land Trust, Osagachi Hills, Hathaway Farms property. The board is entering into executive session at 8:13 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're in executive session.
All right, here we go. The board had entered into executive session at 8:13 p.m. and we've returned at 8:56 p.m. and no formal votes have been taken. Okay,
And the
and
next
we'll
motion?
move to adjourn the regular meeting of August 2nd,
Second.
2023 at
Second by Dan.
8:56.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Have a good night.
Yep.